Gather round, children, gather round. It's story time with Jess, the little writer. In case you didn't know, that's me. Consumption. Zachary knocked on the front door of the apothecary and waited to hear movement inside. The door opened to reveal a dark interior, but the doctor was nowhere in sight. Zachary stepped inside and closed the door with his foot. Don't put your feet on the door. It has a handle for a reason, Dr. Arch said from his work table. Zachary removed his coat. I'm sorry, sir. It won't happen again. Dr. Arch glared at Zachary. Forgiven. You are my first apprentice, boy. Don't make me regret hiring you. Zachary hung his coat on a hook on the wall and waited for directions. Dr. Arch rose from his chair and walked towards the boy. The hair on the back of Zachary's neck stood up as the cold chemist approached. A tour first, Dr. Arch said. You need to be well informed before handling anything caustic, corrosive, or combustible. Zachary nodded. Yes, sir. Zachary followed Dr. Arch from room to room. When they entered the lab, Dr. Arch grabbed Zachary by the collar. Don't touch anything, the man said. Zachary wanted to cry but didn't want to show weakness. He nodded and remained stone-faced. Dr. Arch approached a cabinet that had been built into the wall. He slid the glass door to the side and picked up a vial filled with bright orange liquid. Zachary's interest was piqued. That looks like liquid fire. It is, Dr. Arch said. ACF. It would burn anything or anyone out of existence and memory. Zachary's eyes widened. He'd never seen or heard of anything that could do such a thing. He wanted to hold the vial. Having such power in his 12-year-old hand would make him feel like a god. Dr. Arch smiled. Would you like to hold it? Zachary nodded and held out his hand. Dr. Arch was ever so careful. He loosened the cap just a little bit without Zachary noticing. When Zachary's fingers made contact with the glass tube, Dr. Arch tipped it over. Liquid fire poured into Zachary's palm. I told you not to touch anything, Dr. Arch said with his smile still intact. Zachary's face was frozen in shock as ash spread from his hand and up his arm. He was totally consumed in less than a minute. Nothing was left of him but a pile of ashes. Dr. Arch smiled and grabbed a broom from the corner. He swept the remains of Zachary into a piece of paper and folded it into an envelope. Dr. Arch strolled to his office and placed the envelope on the top of his desk. He removed a pen from the pocket of his jacket and wrote Christian, Zachary Jacob on it in large print. A series of snorts and snickers escaped the mad scientist before he placed the envelope into the lowest drawer of a file cabinet. Zachary Jacob Christian fit after David Ramon Campbell and before Oscar Wilhelm Cruz. Dr. Arch returned to his work table in the front and smiled to himself. No one would ever come looking for them. No one would miss them. They were forgotten. ACF, he murmured to himself. All-consuming fire. Burned out of existence and memory. Stupid boys.